What's up, dude? So jumping into Mecha Break, I literally have no idea what this game is. I've never seen videos, never seen gameplay, reviews, ratings, anything. I'm going into this a complete Mecha Break virgin, but my body is ready and willing. Before booting this game up, I was thinking back to the last fully dedicated mech game that I played, and it's been a fucking while. The first game that came to mind was Titanfall, and Jesus Christ, man, what a phenomenal game. But still no news on Titanfall 3, and I'm going to hurt myself every single day until we get an announcement trailer. So the choice is yours, EA. I'm just kidding. YouTube, I'm kidding. EA, I'm kidding. Everybody fucking settle down. But Titanfall wasn't even a fully dedicated mech game, and I've never played Armored Core. So I guess by internet law, if you've never played Armored Core, you need to be crucified or something like that. I don't know. It's just like a fact I've read online. So I guess the last fully dedicated mech game that I played was Mech Assault on the original Xbox. Where my OGs at? I can't even begin to tell you the memories that this brings back. This was in the same era as like Jet Set Radio Future and Sega GT 2002, the golden era of gaming. And look at us now. We just took it for granted. But the point I'm trying to make, which I understand it's taken me a long time to get to, is that I'm overdue for a mech game. So Mecha Break is going to be the first fully dedicated mech game that I've played in years. From the moment you press start on Mecha Break, they just hold the throttle down on information. And if you get left behind, that's on you. This game still has me confused on how I feel about it, so let's jump into this 4-pillar review. This is not a pretty game. There's barely any color contrast. Everything is basically the same shade of whatever color it is. And it never hurts to make a good looking game. It's never a bad thing for the player to appreciate the world they're in. This is just not that game. A lot of the environment here is very bland. Mountains look low res, shrubbery looks low res. Honestly, this doesn't even feel like a next gen or even past gen game. I've seen Xbox One games that look better than this. This isn't far off from being an Xbox 360 game. Everything just feels ultra dull. Almost all the multiplayer maps have this weird light gray fog that surrounds the edge, and that destroys the immersion because every single map starts feeling the same. And it also just doesn't make you feel like there's a world around this. Like, hey, you're fighting in a multiplayer map and this is all you're getting. Like, take for example Halo, Destiny, and Call of Duty. They don't just give you a multiplayer map, they give you a map, but they also build a world around it. So even though you can't access those areas, you could still look out from your map and be like, oh, I'm involved in this whole world. And that's fucking immersion 101. And I know all the focus is not on the environment and the immersion here. It's on the mechs. And when it comes to the mechs, they all look sick as fuck. I do enjoy that every mech has its own little glow up flex video when you pick them for the first time. It gets you super into it. And it's cool because all the mechs have their own style and combat class, which makes you really want to explore all the options and find your main. You could lose a lot of time in just finding what mech is best for you. And when it comes to the mechs, they really did kill it. I'll give them credit for that. Showcasing the weapons, the abilities, no mech really looks the same, so you are eager to try out all of them. Once you're outside of your mech and kind of just chilling in your base, there's actually a lot to explore and interact with, but there's nothing that you want to interact with twice. Like once you see the animation of you getting yourself a cup of coffee, that immediately gets old and you don't want to interact with that again. And like I said, there's tons of stuff to interact with. Like you could take a shit, you could take a shower, you could sit down places, which, if there was an award for how many different places you could sit down in a game, get ready for the fucking game awards because this game's going to take it. In all seriousness, I do appreciate the player being able to interact with so much stuff, but it just all seems so meaningless. Like, I don't think there's one person out there that's like, damn, that was a hard mech battle. Time to hit the showers, boys. And then everybody goes and takes a shower. Like, I just don't see that happening. I don't know. Maybe I would feel different if it was some sort of requirement. Like after 5 mech battles, you boys got stank dick. So go jump in the shower and then get another 5 matches in you. Or after 5 matches, hey, you're tired. Go get a cup of coffee. You get 5 XP. Or you know what I mean? Something like that that just doesn't make all the interaction meaningless. So exploring your base, you're going to find some locked rooms. You're going to find like a gym, a break room, a bar, and you can obtain these key cards just by playing the game, which is nice. But once you get into these locked rooms, it's basically the same thing. Like say you unlock the gym, you're going to watch your character do pull-ups or deadlifts or ride a bike. It kind of just all circles back to that pointless interaction, but at least it gives you something to work towards. If there's one thing that they did a great job on, it's the character creator. There are so many options to make them look as real as possible or whatever nightmare you can imagine. And just a little PSA for everybody, you're going to run into about 90% women characters because there's sliders on here that let you adjust the proportions to whatever you want. And there's also jiggle physics. So take that as you will. So like I said, character creator is good. But if there's one thing here that irritates me like crazy, Say you created a man as your first character and you want to create a second character and you want it to be a woman. You can't create that character without spending real world money. So if you want to create a character that has the opposite sex as your first one, you have to spend cash to do that. And that fucking blows my mind. I can't even believe that that's an option. So here's a little conspiracy that I think is happening, and you guys can totally call me out if you think I'm wrong. So, what is the most prominent sex that's going to be playing this game or just video games in general? It's going to be men. And I think 90% of the time, a male player is going to create a male character. But once you figure out what you can do with the sliders, the jiggle physics, and the proportions, all you want to do is create that female character. But now, guess what? You have to pay for it. The devs here are playing Gooner chess, but they'll pay. They always pay. Overall, I'm definitely not a huge fan of the immersion or the environment here. While you're playing this game, you're constantly reminded that this is a game. It's not something that you can get lost in. The combat here was a little confusing at the start. This game throws information at you a million miles a second, and you kind of just have to adjust. So, knowing nothing about this game, jumping into it was a little tricky for me. But once you lock it in, it's crazy fun. Super fast paced and omnidirectional, which adds a lot of flavor to the combat. So, if I haven't said this before, all these mechs have different weapons and abilities. So, I'm a huge fighting game fan. So, I love when it comes down to choosing the right character and experimenting combos and abilities that match with your playstyle. What this game does right is it has this variety of mechs and classes. You've got light mechs, long range mechs, melee mechs, and absolute thick boys. Combat is addicting. If it wasn't for the combat, I probably would have dropped this game after day one. I'd even kind of call this a hero shooter, even if it doesn't feel like one. You've got your healers, tanks, DPS, all the good stuff. But from what I've seen, nobody really plays it like that. The action is hectic, and I've learned that the mech with the most movement usually wins. What I do appreciate in this game is that every mech has their own signature execution, which is always a nice touch. So when you gun somebody down, you have that split second to disrespect your opponent just a little more, and that's always a plus in my book. To be completely honest, the executions are kind of cheesy and they're not animated all that well, but it is a live service game, so I'm sure they're going to sell better ones in the future. If there's one thing that I hate with all my soul, is that when you're doing an execution, your opponent sees like your player card and it gives you a little like screenshot of your character that you created. And it is the cringiest thing that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, look at this. Me and this other guy just had a sick ass battle. We're both moving around at light speed. I end up taking his butt. I go over to assert my dominance, and this is what he sees. I mean, look at my guy, man. He looks like a fucking goober. It is the cringiest thing to me. Out of all the mechs that you could choose from, I ended up maining Lumine. It's a support mech, so shout out to all my battlefield medics out there. But I've always found myself gravitate towards more of like a healer or support character, because honestly, I'd rather have 50 assists, 0 kills, and win the game instead of having 50 kills and losing the game. It's all about healing the homies. So with that said, pull up a chair, and I'm going to give you some secret Lumine tech. Lumine does direct health damage and bypasses all shields. So it doesn't matter how many shields your opponent has, you're always attacking their health directly. One of your abilities gives you infinite boost for a while, and you can also heal yourself. Do you guys understand how nasty that combo is? You get in, you do some damage, and you dip out. They can't catch you, you have infinite boost. You heal yourself up. You get in, do some damage, get back out. Get in, do some damage, get back out. It's literally like stabbing somebody to death with a toothpick. I don't think I've ever lost a 1v1 with Lumine. Granted, Lumine is not the mech to have if you're kind of like in a mosh pit and there's a bunch of mechs around you kind of just lasering you. But if it's a 1v1 scenario, Lumine is demoralizing. There are a few things that are annoying. The sprint speed feels like you're in quicksand unless you're boosting, and the lock on targeting system, sometimes it just feels so cheap. It makes combat feel like it lacks skill, especially with sniper mechs who basically have auto aim and high damage output. I mean, you're just getting tracked from halfway across the map. Sometimes it feels just a little too cheap for me. Overall, combat is still a ton of fun. Occasionally, it could feel a little cheap or frustrating, but rarely enough to ruin it. Don't get your hopes up. The progression here is a complete nightmare. There are like 70 different currencies, and nobody tells you what they're for. You kind of just hope you click the right menu at the right time and figure it out. You have research points for this, mission tokens for that, achievement points for whatever the fuck. It's honestly disorienting. I also could just be old, but this is not how video games are supposed to be. Which brings me to the UI. You want to know what UI stands for? Unintuitive. Am I right? Please? You need to leave. Every menu is buried under another menu, buried under another menu. Honestly, it's exhausting. And you have your typical stuff here, like you can customize your mech and you can add different mods, which like boost healing or boost agility, but it's just all so hard to find. What I do appreciate is that there's some cosmetics that you can unlock just by grinding the game, but if there's any good shit that you want, get your wallet ready because you're going to have to pay for it. And there's not even that much cool stuff to unlock right now. I mean, there's like a few outfits, a couple accessories, but it's all locked behind Misha Mecha Space Achievement coin bucks or whatever the currency's called. But yeah, anything that you really want to add to your mech or to your character, you're going to have to bust open your wallet for. There's also an open marketplace where players can sell things for real world dollars that was turned into in game currency, but it just all seems so messy. Like it just wasn't done right. And look, I get it. This is a free game. So they need to make their money back no matter what. So trust me, I understand what they're doing. It's just the way they did it just doesn't feel right. Overall, this is the opposite of what I want progression to be in a game. So the story here is really in the background. I guess the best thing I can compare it to is Battlefield 2042, where like you get little voiceovers and cutscenes to give you some world building, but it's mostly just a reason to explain why these mechs are going at it. This game is multiplayer first, story second, but basically, this all takes place after an event called the Great Silence. Most of civilization was wiped out. Humanity now lives on these floating cities while the rest of the population survives using this ultra rare resource called Corite. It powers the mechs, tech, and just about everything else. Now there's several factions that are all fighting to control this ultra rare resource. You play as a breaker, and your life is mech combat now. The story exists to give you a setting, but after the first mission, you kind of forget about it, and then it's just multiplayer from there on. There are story connected modes like a 3v3 and objective based, and there's also a full blown extraction PvPvE. That was a lot of fun. I spent a lot of time on that. Like I said, I did have a good time playing this game, but it just doesn't feel like this has a longevity for me. Overall, I did really enjoy playing this game for a bit. I explored all the mechs, gave them a shot. I played a ton of PvP. In the end, I don't think I'm ever going to come back to this game unless a bunch of buddies jumped on or there's like a huge update. The gameplay feels a little too cheap for me and it doesn't have what I want to keep me locked in. Final rating for this game, I'm going to give a 5.8 out of 10. As always, if you made it this far and enjoyed the video, go ahead, drop a like. Maybe even drop a sub if you're feeling crazy. If you didn't, I'll get you next time. I really do enjoy making these videos, so if you guys want to drop in the comments what game you would want my mediocre review on next, feel free. I appreciate it.